This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
We're talking generosity of the UAE. The UAE is actually one of the first countries to support humanitarian initiatives. UAE aid accounted for 80% of the international response to countries struggling during the pandemic. That's big. That's huge. We're talking about the UAE supporting 117 countries. So 117 countries received aid from the UAE. The UAE did send about more than 2,000 tons of medical aid, respiratory equipment, screening equipment, personal protection equipment, and detection tests to 135 countries around the world. Also sent 196 medical aid flights. 6 field hospitals were set up in many countries as well. And also clinics have been open as well in certain countries as well.
Yeah, and we've seen Sharjah-based organizations as well play a major role as part of the UAE's humanitarian efforts during COVID-19, namely Sharjah Charity International and a number of other government bodies as well. For instance, the developer Arada sending emergency medical equipment to countries around the world as well. So various humanitarian arms at work across the entirety of the United Arab Emirates to bring home and deliver the message that the fight against COVID-19 is one that is global and one that requires cooperation and compassion from everybody involved, no matter the situation at their home countries, because that's really the only way to break through this.
Yeah, the amount of work that the United Arab Emirates did in terms of providing the PPE equipment to hard-hit countries, especially such as Italy back in the days as well, when the height of the pandemic was there, and we saw the flights organised in cooperation with the Italian embassy as well. So the UAE continues that role even after the pandemic has slightly weakened at the moment. We've seen, particularly when we talk about the Sharjah Charity International, providing the adhiyas to 136,000 beneficiaries in 38 countries, and that was done very, very recently during the Eid al-Adha, or for the Eid al-Adha break as well. So it's incredible in terms of how philanthropic our community is in the United Arab Emirates. We continue to be out there whenever we could. We have the potential of lending a helping hand. We've seen how during Eid al-Fitr as well, or Ramadan, how Sharjah Charity International was quite active, not only domestically but also abroad, in terms of more people offering their donations to build mosques and schools across the globe. To learn a little bit more about what Sharjah Charity International does and has been working on, do check out our podcast page. Even on our YouTube, we did have one of the board members of Sharjah Charity International, Saeed Ghanem Al-Suwaidi, joining us on the Morning Majlis to give us a little bit more of an understanding in terms of how the SCI operates, what they do, and how is your single dirham as a contribution and how far it goes after you've dropped it in the charity box. So there is so much to celebrate in terms of the humanitarian work that their country as a whole conducts.
Yes, indeed. And text us at 4215 to join the conversation and talk to us about the role you played in helping others, whether in your community or elsewhere around the world, through the charitable organizations in the fight against COVID-19. Up next, we're going to be talking about the Britney Spears conservatorship, a legal guardianship that her fans criticize as exploitative, saying free Britney. What is going on, and has Britney gotten any closer to freeing herself, as she would put it? Stay tuned for that story and much more right here on Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
The Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
On to the United States. Now, 2 months ago, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the health regulator in the United States, said that if you're vaccinated against COVID-19, you don't have to wear a mask in public. Well, now the CDC has just revised those guidelines, saying people should resume wearing masks in public indoor spaces in parts of the country where the virus is surging. CDC officials also called for teachers at school, students, and visitors to be masked in those areas, regardless of their vaccination status and the overall community transmission of the virus. So this is an interesting recommendation and shows the possibility that the virus might be outstripping the vaccination efforts in the country as well. There have been reports, for instance, of breakthrough infections in the states of Florida and Missouri of the contagious Delta variant among people who are fully vaccinated. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, the director of the CDC, saying at a news briefing, quote, "The Delta variant is showing every day its willingness to outsmart us."
That's right. He did say that. And he said that when we examine the rare breakthrough infections and we look at the amount of virus in those people, it is pretty similar to the amount of virus in unvaccinated people. And that's what she said. And it's possible that because of this higher viral load, people with breakthrough cases of Delta may be able to spread it. And she also continued by saying that unlike the Alpha variant that we had back in May, where we didn't believe that if you were vaccinated, you could transmit further, this is different now with the Delta variant. So this move, the CDC move, it comes as the highly transmissible Delta variant. It fuels a surge in cases around the country, and multiple cities, they have reinstated indoor mask mandates, including in Los Angeles County and also St. Louis. But for weeks, many public health experts, they had been nudging the agency to kind of change this policy. They're arguing that fully vaccinated people should wear masks in indoor settings, especially in areas where transmission of the virus is high. So the CDC director did say that we have places that are now reporting over 300 cases per 100,000. So an extraordinary amount of viral transmission can happen there.
Yeah, and look, this is the big thing, isn't it? There's a big debate in terms of should you wear face masks because you're vaccinated. And I remember when we took off in the fully vaccinated flight with Emirates, we still wore face masks. Everyone went through a rapid antigen test or the rapid PCR test that we do at the airports. People had to be vaccinated, and when we first trialed that flight, everyone felt safe, thinking, you know what, we're all vaccinated and we're having a cracking time on board because it was a special ceremonial flight, symbolic flight, flying above the United Arab Emirates for 2.5 hours. But I spoke to health officials there, and all of them said the same thing, saying, look, even though you are vaccinated, people here
you can still get it.
You can still get it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can still be a carrier.
And if you don't get it, you can be the carrier. Exactly. You can be a carrier for other people that are not vaccinated.
True, and that's just the big thing about the face masks. So it makes us think that maybe these will continue to be part of our lives. In the United States, a lot of people have reported, especially journalists, saying it feels like the pandemic is over, because as soon as people got their vaccines, they said, you know what, let's take our face masks off and wander around. Countries such as Greece as well, they say that you can take off your face masks when you're outdoors because you've been vaccinated. But to what extent are you personally 100% sure that the person next to you might not be asymptomatic? So it's just that. I think it goes down to us as individuals feeling that, we should be wearing our face masks.
I mean, let's all agree that the vaccine is an extra shield.
Yes.
Not the only shield, or not the only way that you will never get the virus. It's just extra protection. Let's just see it as that.
And even with the possibility of contracting COVID after being vaccinated, vaccines are a pretty effective way to prevent the worst outcomes of the infection. Any form of COVID-19, you're less likely to be hospitalized, you're less likely to die if you had been vaccinated. But the latest recommendations by the CDC, they certainly shocked a lot of people, because back in May when they said, okay, you can even take your mask off indoors if you're vaccinated.
In schools as well.
Yeah, people were starting to feel like, hey, it's over and we're good. And now it's not that way. And it's prompted a lot of sentiments across social media, people being more and more skeptical of health authorities. Anthony Fauci, the lead infection disease expert in the Biden administration, has spoken about this. He said, we're not flip-flopping and changing our mind like some people are saying we are. We're simply dealing with new information. So prior to this, we had been working under the notion that if you're vaccinated, you're almost certainly not going to contract a COVID infection, and your ability to spread it is also very, very limited. So we went ahead telling people, take off your masks, it's fine. But now we're dealing with new information and this Delta variant, and the science behind this is something that is ever changing given that the virus itself mutates. So they asked people to cooperate and also stressed that no matter how you cut it, a vaccine is always beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, face masks is such a normal thing for us now that whenever we do step outside, the first thing that pops in our mind is
My mask.
my mask. So just deal with it, really. And in line with this, the United Arab Emirates' government also held a press briefing yesterday saying that, that we've seen a dramatic or a drastic decrease in the number of cases being reported on a daily basis. In January, we were hovering around almost 4,000 cases a day, and now we are seeing cases around 1,500. Still a lot, but they're there. And they're saying that it's all largely due to the fact that they've got their own measures and people are following them. And they're saying that the UAE's return to everyday office life is likely now as COVID-19 infections are falling. And they're saying that there is a gradual return to normal life, return of the country's economic and tourism activity in a broader way, and return of employees to practice their work from the headquarters of the entities to which they belong. That's according to the TV broadcast yesterday. So a bit of optimism as well. Let's see what happens. But so far it appears that we just should keep following the guidelines that we have. That is, wear your face mask, practice social distancing, and regularly washing your hands as well. Well, stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We'll take a bit of a breather for you, and we'll be back again with a discussion on the new Chancellor at the AUS here in Sharjah.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Hello and welcome back on to the Morning Majlis. We are talking to you about the big developments when it comes to the impact Sharjah is making on the international level when it comes to promoting the world of literature. The president of the International Publishers Association has welcomed the Turkish Publishers Association's decision to organize the International Istanbul Book Fair, and this is taking place this November, adding that the return to in-person events indicates that the world of publishing is adapting to the realities of the new normal and gearing up to regain its full potential. These were the remarks from Her Excellency Sheikh Badur Al Qasimi, which came during the meeting with the TPA in Istanbul. And the meeting was held in the presence of the TPA President Kenan Kokaturk and members of the association and the prominent local publishers as well. Now, the big question is, and the big talker is, if the world can, if almost half of the UAE can travel to Turkey and Greece during the holidays, why can't we have a book fair? And that's the big thing. And we're really, really excited to have this taking place in Istanbul.
This is very exciting. It actually coincides with our very own Sharjah International Book Fair. It's supposed to be taking place from 3rd of November until the 13th of November. So we're going to also be looking forward to that. But looking back at this visit, Her Excellency Sheikh Badur's visit to Turkey, it follows a series of meetings with publishers associations in Egypt, Kenya, Ivory Coast, Ghana, and also Georgia earlier this year. And basically, Her Excellency stressed that IPA is focusing on establishing effective communication with publishers associations worldwide, and it sought to thrash out the challenges facing businesses against the backdrop of the pandemic that badgered the publishing industry, and she wants to help them design agile business models to ensure their growth and sustainability. And she also stressed that COVID-19 has offered the industry an opportunity to reevaluate current business models and replace them with more agile ones, with a strong focus on pushing the agenda of digital publishing, basically. And publishers who had been perceptive enough to expand their business models to include digital offerings have been able to rebound quickly, thankfully.
Yeah, and the International Publishers Association has also been working closely with its members to assess any gaps in the knowledge needed to transform their businesses to adapt to the current circumstances, as well as a post-pandemic era. Al-Qasimi said the upcoming IPA Academy that is set to be launched later this year would provide publishers all around the world with a list of courses that are aimed at meeting the necessary, urgent capacity building and upskilling for publishers to teach them to adapt and redesign and revitalize their publishing needs with a focus on digital publishing as well. Sheikh Abdur Al-Qasimi also stressed the importance of solidarity among publishers and among all stakeholders across the global publishing ecosystem, and took the opportunity to congratulate the TPA, the Turkish Publishing Association, on its tireless work in defending the freedom of publish principle, which is one of the main objectives of the IPA. The TPA has been sharing its findings on freedom to publish both in Turkey and around the world in its annual report as well. So great to see these discussions happening, and the International Publishers Association has been playing a great role in revitalizing the book and publishing industries all around the world, which have transformed quite significantly in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. But that certainly welcomes new opportunities at innovating and finding unique and interesting ways to get more people reading from all around the world.
Yeah, true what you just said. Sheikh Badur definitely has a lot of drive and enthusiasm, whether it is launching landmark initiatives, whether it's launching innovative projects, mapping new ways of encouraging investment in Sharjah, or even enhancing the beauty and landscape of the Emirates. She's always in the forefront, molding the shape of things to come. And just like her father, His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Muhammad Al-Qasimi, the Supreme Council member and ruler of Sharjah, she's also a wellspring of compassion and concern for the distressed who are facing an uphill struggle. And that is exactly echoing what she just did in Turkey, because just like all the other, or their counterparts in other parts of the world, they have been badly affected by the pandemic. And she's there to lend a helping hand for sure.
Yeah, she certainly is, and we look forward to covering more developments on the publishing sector. Stay tuned to the Morning Majlis, because up next we're going to be talking about the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines against the Delta variant. The United States' CDC issuing guidelines for people, even if you're vaccinated, you got to wear masks and take your precautions. Does that mean the vaccines don't work? Stay tuned to Pulse 95 to find out more.
If you liked this episode of The Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.
Pulse.